What?
We good? All right, everybody, please stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In compliance with the Open Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey, adequate notice of the meeting of the Egg Harbor City Common Council was provided in the following manner. Advance written notice of this meeting was posted on the Egg Harbor City Hall bulletin board. Advance notice of this meeting has been sent out to the Hamilton Gazette, the News, the Press, and the Current. I direct the city clerk to enter these minutes into this, this public announcement. Roll call.
Mayor Gepetti. Here. Brown.
Here.
Dash.
Here.
Heiss. Here. Lello.
Here.
Mays.
Here.
Ritchie.
Here.
Sefton.
Here.
Tricol.
Here.
Ross.
Item 4, approve the minutes of January 23rd, 2020 council meeting. Can I get a motion?
So move it. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, number 5, presentation. The proposed Cedar Creek, Egg Harbor City Lake pedestrian connection. Michael Tricone of Consulting and Municipal Engineer.
I have to apologize, I'm having some technical difficulties with the PowerPoint, but I can still speak. So,
We did have a public hearing today from 4 to 6, so it's just an update on council, for council.
I apologize, but I can send the PowerPoint out to you guys. It was working before, and then there's some monitor. Do you know how to fix it?
He's the engineer, he should be able to fix it.
You can't find somebody that's about 15 years old. Yep.
Yep.
Oh, look at that, Ryan.
Well, that's good. Come out here and take your mouse, you don't click on it. It goes in the slideshow.
The mouse hasn't been working already.
It's here. It is. Here you go.
This one?
Next one.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, Ryan. Mayor, Council, thank you for having me. It was doing this before, it's cutting it out, so I don't, it might be the connection. So, anyway, so I'm here to present a project that we're working on for the city through an engine, through a grant. Basically, the project purpose is to construct a bike facility from Deschwig Street down to the campground, and you're gonna have to excuse me because it's gonna keep cutting out. Down to Egg Harbor City Lake. The project will limits, like I said, run from that. The sponsor of this project is Egg Harbor City. The road is under Atlantic County jurisdiction, and again, you're gonna have to excuse it because I don't know if there's a connection or whatever. Basically, the project is it's a federal grant from the 2016 Transportation Alternatives Program that the city applied for. This is a very competitive grant application, and the city was very fortunate to have gotten on that list to get this money from the federal government. There's only about 30 applications that were accepted under this program. The funding for this project for the grant is $825,000. That is for construction. This project is administered through NJDOT local aid. That's who oversees this program, and we're working through a state's design assistance program. The state of New Jersey realized after going through these federal TAP projects or these grant programs that the cities or the sponsors are having issues delivering these projects because of all the red tape. These are federal projects, there's a lot of federal clearances and a lot of other details that are required. So the state DOT put out an RF solicitation that shortlisted firms. that were then made available to the cities to actually do the design work for the sponsors, in this case, the city. So they would engage us then directly. It prevents the city from having to go out and do a federal procurement process for a designer. And also the program also pays for all design related fees. So that's for all phases of work. Now, once the project goes into construction, the city would then apply for monies for construction inspection portion of the project. All right, so like I said, we're going through a federal process here. It's a legal process. It's called National Environmental Policies Act, and this is required for all federal monies that are procured for any organization. In this case, Federal Highway is the federal agency with the funding. And part of this program is to do an outreach, to do public outreach, and that's why we're here. We had a public information early today. We invited, we got a list of stakeholders, which included historical societies, bicycle organizations, property owners, and we also published it in the newspaper. There's a process we need to follow for that. It's under federal guidelines. So basically, the project will construct basically maintain the 2 lanes along Philadelphia Avenue within the project limits, and we'll construct a 5-foot bike lane on either side of the road in both directions. All right, and that's basically what this project will do. We're going to minimize the lanes down, to reduce the lane widths down, to get the additional width that we need for the bike lane, as well as do whatever minor widening we need to get the 5 feet of width for the bike width. Okay, so that's the section. The roadway, under the grant, we're not allowed to touch the roadway proper, and that'd be the travel lanes. So we will only be constructing the outer portion of the roadway, the shoulder area where the bike lane is going. All right, so we can't. So we've had discussions with the county, and the county said that they would be willing, when this project moves forward, to then resurface the inside, the interior part of the roadway. Because it's kind of, you're going to have a nice paved bike lane, and you're going to have a beat up or whatever the road condition is at that time. So we're in discussions with the county, and since this is a county roadway, there's going to need to be a maintenance or construction agreement or interlocal agreement between the city and the county, which needs to take place. And then the county has agreed to take over full jurisdiction of the facility after construction. So they've agreed to that. So the maintenance of this moving forward will be that of the counties. And the project will also put in signage and striping. There will be, the bike lane symbols, pavement markings, and also signage on the roadway throughout the limits of the project where they're needed. There's also some ADA ramp improvements near Dershowitz. There'll be some new crosswalks over there. We're also putting in a crosswalk at Irving Street near the high school. And they'll also be constructing a new sidewalk along Irving that connects up to Terrace Avenue, the terrace, because I guess the sidewalk ends there, so we're going to provide that connectivity along Irving Street. Okay, and then the part of our, a part of this process, since we're doing this widening, we're adding some additional pavement. We have to do all these we have to do some stormwater management for under state regulations. So we'll be putting some swales in on the project as well, roadside swales, to get the recharge and the retention that's required by the rules. Those will be going down near the campground area, in that wooded area. So there'll be no swells in front of any properties per se. And then the goal here is to have the 5 foot of bikeway, which is, again, equates to about a foot or two of widening, and then a 5 foot buffer area where we'll be seeding and grass, putting some grass in. Some of the utilities will need to be bumped out, some of the utility poles. Because the way the widening works right now is the utility poles are about 18 inches off. So our new road is going to basically be right up against the utility poles of the bike lane. So we've talked utility poles, we're going to push them out. We don't want the utility poles right up against the bike lane. So like I said, now we're going through our environmental screening process and cultural resource investigations. There's no right-of-way needed so far. This is the right-of-way out here is fairly wide, so there'll be no direct property takings. So like I said, right now we're under a preliminary engineering phase of the project. We're hoping to have this completed by the fall of 2020. We still have some meetings with Pinelands Commissions, project requires a Pinelands application, as well as the preparation of the federal environmental documents. So once we get through that process and all those clearances are done, we'll go into final design next year. And final design will be, preparing the bid documents, doing any agreements that are required with the county, preparing our permits and getting our authorizations for construction. So I'm remaining overly optimistic here that this project will start fall 2021 or more than likely spring of 2022. So, but when we go into final design, that requires another authorization and approval by the DOT. We're only authorized now for final design, and then there'll be a construction phase of the project. The goal of this project during construction, again, is to keep the roadway open. We're not planning on closing the roadway, so there'll be, because most of the work is outside the travel lane area, so the road will remain open. There may be some lane shifts, maybe an occasional, lane closure during like non-low traffic periods. Okay, and then obviously there's going to be coordination with the county too. The county's also replacing the bridge over the lake. That's in design right now, so there'll be some coordination involved with that as well. So if everything comes together nicely, we'll have a nice roadway facility in North Philadelphia Avenue. So that's kind of where we're at. If anybody has any questions, sure.
The bridge over the creek.
Oh, yes.
The one closer to Moss Mill Road. What is the plan for that bridge?
That's a good point. We're not here to widen the roadway because the funding just doesn't have that. So what's gonna happen is the bike lane is gonna go into a shared lane, and we're gonna put those shower roads, I don't know if you've seen them, they're the bike with the arrows on top, they're called shared, so it'll be a shared lane. Get through the bridge and then it'll open up. But what we're doing is we're replacing the bridge parapet, because that bridge has somebody parapet, those steel pipes, like somebody chewed on it. So that's gonna come off. We're in discussions with the county now, so we're gonna get a new rail on there, and we're gonna put new guide rail in, because the guide rail doesn't meet standards, so all that'll be cleaned up. So, all right.
I have a couple of questions. When the project is getting ready to start, who do the bid, it's a bid process, right, for the
Correct.
construction?
Yes.
Who reviews the bids, and who does the selecting of the bids? The city?
What'll happen is, yes, the inevitable decision is our firm, CME Associates, will be doing the construction support services where we will be doing all the bid phase. So when the bids come in, we will then do a bid tabulation and then make a recommendation for the lowest bidder, provided that the bids are in order. And then that recommendation will go to the DOT, who will then authorize construction. So.
The other question I have is, we're gonna have, part of our bid, and part of our construction, we're gonna have inspections on the construction part.
Correct.
Does the county want to supply inspectors to see how that's affecting the road up until the time they pay it?
Well, the construction, the county's is involved in the reviews of the project throughout its entirety. So they're constantly involved in the review, so they know what's going on. So we cannot, as the design engineer, do the construction inspection. So the city is gonna have to go ask for funding for inspection from the state, which they usually should give you the funding for that. But you'll have to go through the federal procurement process, because they do not have a program right now for inspection. Like, you can just grab off from a list of consultants. So you'll have to go through an advertisement period for that.
We'll have an inspection for the basic construction,
Yes.
and we'll need basically an inspection of how that affects. The reason I'm asking this, there's some dips even when they repave the road, there's still gonna be some dips where water settles on Philadelphia Avenue. And the way I see this really should be in the areas where that happens, so we don't have puddling on the bike path and in that section, that the bike path's gonna have to slope to the swales or to whatever, to the woods, wherever they are.
Yeah, what we're gonna do is we're essentially gonna saw cut the road, we're gonna cut the road right at the travel lane, and then we're gonna put a 4% pitch in, a slope in, to get it off the road.
So there won't be any water settling on that side.
The road, there are some drainage issues out here, actually, we were looking at that today. The problem is, I saw there was an issue with that, but we kinda got our wrist slapped, and they're like, this grant can only pay for the bike facility problem.
Right.
So I would suggest if there are areas that the county may wanna ask the county to look at, to fix, that may then, because the one thing that happens is, once we put this bike lane in, the city has to sign off saying, you can't come back a year later and tear it out and do something. You have to sign off that you're gonna keep it proper. So the right thing to do is maybe to get the road through the county fixed, and then we'll piggyback on top of that.
That'd be the best way to do it, but I have I have a feeling it may be, we get the bike path done, and they come and do the tearing of the road behind us. And, they'll saw cut up to the bike path line.
Yes.
And then, we could end up into another puddling situation, because I've seen those roads done and they follow the contour of whatever's
They
existing.
just take two off, two off,
Yeah.
two on, two
So
off, that's
it-
all they do, they
So
don't.
the low
reground.
spots aren't fixed.
No, I agree.
So it would be really nice if, we knew where the low spots were before we built ours, so we could pitch that piece out and get some of that water off the street.
Like I said, the only part of it that I can pitch is the bike lane.
That's what I mean, you
Yeah,
can pitch
that,
the bike lane.
nobody makes 4% slope on that, so that will pitch off.
All right.
But then it's not gonna, you know, it'll keep the runoff in that, because it's gonna act like a shoulder, so it will keep the water in there, but you're still gonna get ponding
It's not gonna
probably.
be the issue that we have right now,
No,
because it's just an add-on to the road.
yeah.
So that was one of the things that.
I didn't wanna
we were talking
make,
about
I didn't wanna make the situation worse.
Yeah, we're not gonna make it worse.
No,
because we're
where
gonna-
where the
yeah.
puddling is, if
Yeah.
that's not fixed, then then you got a little, one of these that when the county's done with it, and it becomes a worse situation. And that's a place where the asphalt will break down.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Because what's gonna, the ideal thing to do is you would pave the shoulder and a lane at the same time. So what you're gonna have is you're gonna basically have a seam down the stripe, the shoulder stripe, which isn't the worst case scenario, but it will eventually, you know, they'll put joint adhesives in there, but eventually they do break down. That's just the way it is. I mean, the best thing to do is to pave the whole thing side to side. But that's, I mean, think about it, it's not actually easy to pave a 4-foot wide, because the paving machines are, you know, so even the paving's a little awkward, but that's just kind of the way that's what we're stuck with here. That's-
Yeah, I guess what I was leaning to was it would be more advantageous for this money that we're spending to make our part coincide with resurfacing of the county, instead of turning into a who's first to do what.
No, the county agrees that it's concurrent, that they want to do it concurrent, they see the benefit there. It's just a matter of if the county can't say, we're gonna have the money to pay Philadelphia Avenue, they don't know their capital program, you know what I mean? I think you know, the important thing is that they're on the radar screen, and that the timing works out, that's important.
Because the bridge is a major, when they go to reconstruct the bridge or whatever they're gonna do to it, that's gonna be a major time consumption. I saw how long it took them to do the bridge in Mays Landing.
Oh, the bridge, you know, about down to the lake. Yeah, it's a big
So,
project.
and that slows the project, all the project down.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
But yeah, I mean, believe me, I'm on top of that, we're, you know, making sure that the county, you know, but it doesn't hurt to do that at the city level, to make them aware of the importance.
And then, when the streets are usually repaved, the county or even the town will get a moratorium on road openings from the gas company and that type of stuff. Does that include the bike path?
I would think, the county has a moratorium for all their, you know, new construction, that would apply.
We wouldn't issue any of those permits because it'd be in county road.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, when the job's done, the project's is gonna be handed over to the county.
There's nothing wrong with the gas company, but they love to see a freshly paved road so they can come in and put the first patch down in the new paved road.
There's no gas out there.
There is no gas running out that way?
Well, up to Moss Mills, I think, and then
They were running it down on Philadelphia Avenue. They do have the flags out there, the orange flags, and they're the gas flags, I think.
we'll talk to them before we go to final. We get the final design, just see what they're, because, you know, we send them letters saying if you have any future, and they haven't said.
No, they always say no, and then it's an emergent situation. 15 months, or 5 months after you pave, it's an emergent situation, they have to rip it up.
I see Denny and also Jerry every month, so we'll bring it up at the mayor's meeting.
Well, thank you.
And we'll be back again in final design, when we're gonna be advancing our design, and we'll be back final design, you know, before we go.
Can we get just a general idea on what the taxpayers will have to fund for this?
Nothing.
And what about after it's built for the maintenance? Is this all county? So it's federal and then county?
Yeah, we put the application together in cooperation with the county. You guys got design assistance funds, so DOT is fully funding the design, they're fully funding the project, and then the county's taking over the maintenance.
Great, so zero cost to the taxpayer?
That's what we're doing.
Perfect.
Let me piggyback off him. Their fees, or do we have to eat that?
Well, that, I mean, the state does not pay for police traffic controls.
Okay.
They just don't. I mean, that's either something that is gonna have, that the city may have to pay for that, if the police require that.
Now, Scott, when they did, the lake to Clark's Landing,
Yeah.
there was not police out there at all. They had their own,
Okay.
sign guys out there stopping and starting traffic that whole time they did that. There was
Right,
never
like-
police.
Because I know a lot of streets
We
require
have, yeah.
Yes.
troopers or,
The feds will pay for trained licensed flaggers, you
Okay.
know, and traffic control coordinators, that's what they pay for.
Okay.
They don't, you know, unless something changes between now and 2024.
Just to make sure I heard it right, this is gonna be no cost to the city. The city taxpayers pay zero.
At this time, yes, that's.
No, not at this time. The city taxpayer will pay zero.
The construction is 100% funded by the federal government, and the design assistance program that's paying us is being paid by the state of New Jersey.
Okay, so what does the city have to pick up?
Nothing right now.
Right now, again, right now. What could it potentially be?
If police are required, maybe, that's be the worst case scenario. The construction inspection is, the city has to request funding for construction inspections,
So they would have to pay.
and they typically do fund the construction inspection. Once you're in the program, they like to keep you, you know.
Every federal funded
That's
project.
what we like to
we've
hear,
had-
nothing.
Zero. Every federal funded project we've had to this point has received the inspection of the construction administration funding. Sort of a formality once you get there.
Any questions?
Any other questions?
Thank you for having me, and I'll
Thank you.
see you hopefully in a year or so.
Sounds good. All right. Item 6, Neighborhood Preservation Program Grant Update. Bill's story.
Thank you, President. Council members, members of the public, we're this close to getting the plan approved. Been submitted up to the state. They're approving the implementation plans on a rolling basis. This morning I got an email saying they want one more little change made, which is ready to go. I sent a draft up to them and say, is this acceptable? So I don't want things coming back again for, a little glitch in something they just had to be done.
Yeah.
So that we're ready to roll. We are having a rollout plan scheduled for March 4th. We'll have it here. Be a public meeting. We'll send notice to the property owners. Mr. Johnson has given me a list of property owners so I can do the labels. Those folks that came to either the outreach sessions or submitted a online survey and provided their emails, they will get the invitation also. We'll be putting it on social media. Charlie, I'll get something to you to boost it up in the newspaper. And again, probably walking around and telling people, shop owners or property owners on Main Street also that we're having a public presentation at that time. One thing I will be doing in the interim, right now I'm going to start with the things we're going to be purchasing, the equipment or materials we're going to be purchasing, sitting down and getting the prices and estimates and coordinating that with Jody, so as soon as we have the approval in hand, we can submit the necessary paperwork, get the authorization to go forward with those things. And then move forward from there.
Outstanding. Thank you very much, Bill.
Laura's a little delayed, I'm not sure if she's gonna be able to make it, so we have to move on.
Okay, move on to the next one. Mayor's report.
Just a couple things, well, just one thing actually, Fred Cerny called me today and he wants to set up a meeting with the redevelopment committee. with the tower site people. He's been reaching out, I guess hasn't gotten any response from anybody, so, they have contacted him and they wanna get the party started here, so. Is anybody, is the redevelopment committee available next week after 6:30 anytime?
Yeah,
Who has reached out to me? I haven't received any email.
I think,
yeah, he hasn't reached out yet. You didn't get one, did you?
that's what he said today.
He's chair.
I got a,
Did you get an email? I think you can.
I didn't get an email, but, if he might have tried to call, I don't know if he tried to call me. I had a couple blocked numbers come up.
Probably best if you should contact me and then I could reach out.
Yeah, I didn't get an
I'll
email
call
though,
tomorrow.
or I would've known
I'll
who
take
it
care
was.
of it. I asked Fred to send some dates that the tower site people could meet. He wants to try to do it next week or the week after.
Sure.
So I'll take care of that and I'll let you guys know. I'll send Meg an email and then she can let everybody know. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Just real quick, I attended the Aaron Hoffman meeting on Monday night. They had a discussion about the Lakewood properties. Brian, they would like a new, contract containing the old properties and the new properties all in one, instead of having one for one and one for the other. If we can combine all the properties together and get an agreement to them, they would appreciate that.
So we're just consolidating all the existing.
Right, everything that is now run, that we got back from Lakewood and what they had prior, they want that all in one agreement.
Okay.
And then they had another question, and I don't know where to even go with this, so they want to know if it's possible to get the deeds to the properties that are cleared, the ones that don't have any, that we don't know, that basically the city owns, to get the deeds cleared.
Are you talking about the ones that are farther out, closer to the river, that there was some discrepancies on the title as to who owned them?
Is that what they were speaking of? I'm sorry, and Bill just stepped out, because he's,
We could reach out and find
yeah,
out.
I can get a clarification from Todd on that, but they said if we can, they said they think the deeds are like really, really old ones, so,
Yeah, there's some,
It may-
there's a bunch of properties that have discrepancies from what the thirties.
okay,
But yeah, we can get the details and try to get that sorted.
okay. And that's all I have.
See?
I have nothing.
Joe?
We had a safety committee meeting on February 3rd. I'll give the report next meeting when we give our safety report, or committee meeting reports. It was very productive, I think. We discussed a lot of things that the public should be happy with, so stay tuned for that.
Scott? Steve?
No, I'm good.
Cliff?
No.
Robin? Bob?
And we had a utility committee meeting, and that was very successful as well. Report on that later. The land use board has a meeting coming up next week, so I can't do that. That's the 18th. And that's it.
That's it? All right, I have one thing, I got an email. It's ACUA recycling update from Sarah J. Barilla. Barilla? All right, I want to get this out to everybody and it'll be posted and all that good stuff. As part of our responsibility to reduce contamination in the recycling stream, ACUA has implemented a flagging program to inform residents of what they can and cannot be recycled. ACUA updated its recycling guidelines last year, but many of the items we still see in the recycling bins had never been accepted in our program, such as plastic bags and food waste. When we continue to accept items like this, it affects our overall contamination rate of recycling loads. Our recycling processor, along with many others throughout the state, have begun rejecting loads with too much contamination. Although it is a rare occasion, entire loads have been sent to the landfill and be charged as trash. This is not a positive outcome for anyone in our community. As the authority invested in maintaining and strengthening recycling in Atlantic County, ACUA is one of the only haulers taking the time to flag items and inform customers of what can and cannot be recycled. We have been working alongside the recycling coordinators in each community to get the word out, but also ask for your support and assistance in informing our communities about proper recycling. We are happy to provide flyers displayed for your City Hall graphics, which we already have. In addition, we remind you that we will no longer empty 55-gallon drums, cup barrels, for safety of our collection employees. Thank you for your time and understanding. So, apparently they're gonna start, the way it sounds like, they're gonna start marking stuff that can't go in there. So, if everybody's not sure, or if you're not sure, I know there's items right out here on the bulletin board and whatnot, of what can and cannot be accepted. Apparently they're pressing a little bit harder now to try to make this right, so just try to be a little more careful with your recycling and stuff like that.
Yeah, we did have flyers that they left here, Rick Dovey left here last year, or they still?
They're still out there, yes.
Still out there.
So they can pick those,
Everything's online as well.
and they can pick those up. It's a lot more stringent than you realize. All your bottles have to be washed out. The plastic that the bottle is not the same
The
plastic.
cards are out there.
Yeah, it's not the cap. There's weird stuff on there, so you really should take that.
Maybe you should get the.
They're still sitting right now.
You want?
No.
I mean, I'm gonna do it.
It's good.
Is Laura gonna do this?
It's good.
Leave it for now?
Yeah, we'll move on.
We'll move on. All right. 10, Acorn City Police Department report.
Lieutenant Hutton sends his regrets, he can't be here. I did not really pass anything along to the report. But going with the recycling thing, they actually put little pamphlets in your recycling bin. I got one last week because apparently I wasn't following the rules.
Right.
So,
I got one too.
they are putting little pamphlets on your actual recycling bins when they take your stuff or don't take your stuff.
Okay.
So, that's all.
Thank you, sir. CFO report.
Have my year-end report for 2019. I'll just read December's receipts and disbursements and our ending balance. December's receipts were $1,527,224.18, and December disbursements of $2,031,226.18, for an ending balance of $1,730,009.94. And our total health insurance and flexible spending plan expenses last year were $632,316.67. So that's a neg. And then just one other thing, we had talked about the cops hiring grant. So just wanted to see if we wanted to move forward with that. We had gotten a quote from South Jersey Economic Development District. They did the grant they applied for.
Who did the
Oh, the MVP grant. So their fee would be $78 an hour up to a maximum of $5,000. And as part of the grant, I believe it's 3 years, if I'm correct, and then after that, we'd be responsible for keeping the officer at our expense for 1 year. So, after 3 years, we would have to pick that up, so if council wants to approve applying for that, and approving, I guess, for.
Well, does that affect us due to the fact that we don't have 100%?
You have to hire more than what's in your budget, so if we're hiring another officer.
Right, but if we're under that amount now, does that affect us because we're under the
It's
amount?
just what's in your budget.
So they just give us the extra.
Yeah, and then you have to, they give you the money, but then you have to keep them for another year. But that, I can tell you that we're going to be losing a couple more officers.
Right, that's why I'm asking, will this affect it if we don't, if we apply for it, will they say, well, no, because you only have 100% now?
No, because we have the budget, already have the budget need. I mean, I guess
I think you're just applying for how many more officers are in your budget, whether the positions are open or not, how many positions you actually have. I'm honestly, we've never gotten this grant before, so I'm not honestly totally sure.
Okay. Couple questions. Is this the only company we reached out to get a quote from?
Well, originally I think police were gonna do it, but.
Yeah, they were.
Obviously, being down with staff. they
Right.
just don't.
No, no, that's understood, but I'm asking, is this the only company we reached out to? Is this the only grant writer we reached out to?
The only one that I know of.
Okay. Did they give an estimated amount of hours it would take to write this grant?
The cap's $5,000.
Yeah.
Okay, did they give an estimated amount of hours to write this grant? Okay. I think we should table this and explore other options as far as grant writers, because there are more out there. That's my personal opinion.
Jody, what's the time factor with
It's
the,
due,
to
I
apply?
believe, March 11th.
Okay.
So we could do that by the next.
You really have to do it now because the grant's due on March 11th. It doesn't leave much time, it's very lengthy type grant,
It's less than 30 days.
yeah.
And $5,000 at $78 an hour.
You would probably
is
have to
64
do it
hours.
this week and get someone approved or have a special meeting.
Any other,
Sergeant Allen, can we have your opinion on this, please?
The grant, the way that I understand it is that the officers are supposed to be for community policing purposes. A lot of the information that would be required for the grant would have to come from the police department. So, if it's something that's going to happen, it needs to happen fairly quickly because we will have to provide the information that is necessary for it. My understanding of the grant as well is that they won't fund hiring up to your maximum budgeted. It would have to be in addition to, I don't know what the time frame is that we'd have to use that funding by.
do we have any idea, does anybody know how long someone else has done this grant? Get an idea of the amount of time?
You mean how long it takes to write it? Well, that's.
Well, we did, this is the same one that, I think we did apply for, we just haven't gotten it, I guess, we have applied for it in the past. And wasn't that the one that Pat had done a couple, like, for the last year or the year before?
Yeah,
I remember.
We did do that like 2 years
I think
ago.
it was. Wait.
That Moran?
I think that was the grant that you applied for.
I think it was in 2016, maybe end of 2016 yet. I think.
It sounds to me like if we're gonna do it, we need to do it now.
Yeah.
So
It
we
is a
need to
quite-
decide whether it's
with these
important enough
federal
to do or
grants
not.
are- the application process is quite cumbersome.
Do we need a resolution too?
We will need a resolution definitely, but, I mean, if we go for whoever.
So why don't we take a vote if we don't?
Do that.
We need to make public safety number one issue in this town, so if this is what we need to do to get it moving fast, and to get it done, then, okay, let's do it.
I make a motion.
Second,
I'll second.
roll call? Want to do it by roll call?
Yes.
Roll call?
Brown,
Yes.
Dash,
Yes.
Heiss,
Yes.
Lello,
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Ritchie,
Yes.
Sefton,
Yes.
Tricol,
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
That's it, thank you.
That was it. City clerk?
Okay, I guess I'll start with, at the last meeting, we spoke about the ramp, the wheelchair ramps, letting the zoning officer have some discretion on approving them. The city attorney, Angela Costigan, I don't know what name to use, Costigan Mayone, she did, get, it had to go to the land use board first, and they made their recommendation, so we do have it available to introduce tonight. I mean, it will be for a public hearing at the next meeting, but everything has been done that was suggested by the land use board. So we would like to introduce it tonight.
Okay.
And then it will be a public hearing at the next one, and it'll be out for everybody to see, up on the website and the paper.
You don't have that on your?
Yeah, it would be an add-on. I do have copies of it here, but it is a lot of what we talked about.
Second? You need a,
No roll call, just to advertise
All in
the
favor?
paper next Wednesday, which I don't know the date. When's next Wednesday?
The 19th.
The 19th.
19th.
So we would be good to do that with or everybody's on. Yeah, we don't need a roll call, okay.
okay.
And second, Jody and I attended a domestic violence policy seminar on Friday. this past Friday. The state is requiring government agencies have policy requiring also have a 1 and 2 in your place of work. I would say they call it a 1 and 2. Somehow I became 1, but where it can be reported to, no laughing matter. But it was a very interesting seminar on domestic violence, and it will be made part of our handbook. It's required to be. It's not an option.
Okay.
And it's, civil service is leading the way on it. All civil service towns have to.
No, she said it doesn't matter whether, even though it's through civil service, it applies to every municipality, whether you are civil
Yeah,
service or not.
but it seems as though civil service towns were the first to have to enact, you know, but whatever. That's why it's on the agenda tonight. I just want to say that as the insurance update, I wasn't sure if I should give that then, but we did attend that seminar, and that's why that is on the agenda.
So that'll be added to the handbook.
Yeah, that's gonna be added to the handbook, and they said that we do need to send it out to all employees, more than just the handbook, like it has to go in with their paychecks and make it known what this policy is, whether we have like a little something for the employees ourselves. It's more about, it was kind of interesting, but a lot was about the domestic violence being your workplaces where they come and get you because they know where you're at, and making employees aware what their rights are and who should be reporting these. As you see the problem, as coworkers, you know what your coworkers are involved in, and you should be reporting it to someone, and who to report it to.
And it's
So
you.
yeah, well,
You're 1 and she's 2.
yeah.
So it's not
No,
the
no.
police department.
No, this is like first,
This is in the workplace.
It's just basically making information available to people. You can't force anyone to like get help. It's basically just kind of letting them know that
the help is out there.
Help is out
Or
there.
where to go if they
And where to
need
go
help.
and what to do. And you're only really allowed to involve law enforcement if you feel there's like a direct and imminent threat at that moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Meanwhile, we need a locked cabinet in some office to keep records, and it will grow from there, but this is the first thing.
Sounds good. Thank you. Engineers report?
Sure, just two
Oh, I'm
things.
sorry, city attorney. Sorry about that.
I gave her a report.
Good evening. I prepared the campground agreement addendum that Councilwoman Heiss recommended. I sent it over to the clerk for execution.
That is on tonight's agenda, and so when we have the public hearing, that will be incorporated, and that will be advertised, so at that portion.
And then I reached out on the Baltimore property and the Keeter properties. These were the two properties where the landowners, approached the city and said they wanted to give the city their property. So in order to determine if in fact they wanted to deed the properties over, I reached out to them. I haven't heard from them yet. So I'm waiting to hear. And that's it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Engineers?
Sure, so just two things. Following up on a long-term goal with the city, we finally had a meeting scheduled with DOT to talk about safety along Route 30. Yes, correct. I reached out to the police department. Sergeant Elwin was kind enough to get us a lengthy list of accidents along that stretch for the last 3 years. So we're gonna have something to talk about with DOT and be able to statistically identify that this is a problem stretch. And they sort of reached back out to us and said, do you have recommendations, do you have things that we want to move forward with? We said, no, not really, we'd like to meet, that's what we're gonna talk about. So, meetings like the 27th, 11 a.m. with the highway committee, I believe, set up to attend that.
It's the 27th of this month at what time?
11 a.m.
I hope they put Wawa on that agenda too. That was a big concern. Yeah, they have to do something about Wawa.
The existing?
Remember we talked about that?
Yes. Been a little while. Okay, and then the last thing is the WIPA process. We sent out an addendum today to extend the response date to March 5th. We got a hefty list of questions from all the respondents, so we've been working to compile answers to everything. We've been working with Jody and Laura and Jerry, gathering records from all over the city, so the respondents have as much information as possible, be as as complete responses as they could possibly prepare. So given that we're just trying to get the answers out, tomorrow or Monday, next week, they're going to need some time to react to all the information provided. So that's really it.
I'm sorry. I was wondering, it's been a while, the CDBG grant, did we apply for that?
We did, the
And
submissions are
where
in.
was it? I don't remember. Phil
was-
Sartorio asked me.
I believe it was the 100 block of Washington Avenue.
Okay, because he would like to inquire whether
What
next
the
year
status is.
we could combine it with the NPP grant. I don't know what the income level is on the 100 to 400 blocks of Philadelphia Avenue.
Well, that-
Or Liverpool, or
Yeah, as I said,
Cincinnati.
that side of the street, that side of Philadelphia Avenue is in that census designated
Right.
block route. But one of the other potential ways to go is community-wide benefit or block group-wide benefit. And I think with Philadelphia Avenue, you have a pretty good argument for that, because that area is, it's bigger than just a block or two. You have a lot of business, a lot of interaction there. So I think you have a strong argument to make on that angle.
so I think if council would consider that for next year, it would tie in nicely with the NPP grant and really spruce things up over there.
What?
CDBG.
Philadelphia.
The area pushed out, well, you could do, since whatever you decide, you could do, of course, that's a county road, but you could do Cincinnati Avenue, the Terrace, or Liverpool, or that Terrace.
Or sections of
The third block.
Or Arago, you know, like when you turn.
Yeah,
on
there is
Arago,
the first 3 blocks. First 4.
First 4, yeah.
First 4 blocks. Right, because I know.
Because a lot of those those turn-offs are pretty bad too.
Yeah, well, I know like the 400 block of Liverpool is really bad. There's people getting out in puddles even if the rain's been going for a day.
Yeah,
They're
so
still-
it's something to really talk to Phil about. I think,
I'm going to look at posts that
yeah, okay. And we were supposed to bond to get that done, and council never did. That was voted on, to bond for that, to get it fixed. But anyway, I think the highway committee should sit down with Phil and talk to him about what his ideas are and his thoughts are, and we'll see going forward. I think it would be a perfect fit. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of things the NPP wants you to do, combining with other grants. That's all I have on that.
No, that's a good point.
Did you, how'd you make out with the map?
I think the map for the lake, I'm trying to catch up tomorrow.
Yeah, I just, like I said, because we're gonna do this, so maybe you could explain to everybody these boundaries that we're gonna have.
Sure. So,
Should we wait for the ordinance public hearing?
yeah.
All right, you wanna do it that way? All right, that works. Good idea.
Yeah, so all,
Yeah, I guess, right, do it all the same.
please.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep.
All right, number 15, resolution appoint human resources officers, Meg Steve, Judy Con.
This is
Roll call.
what I explained under the,
Domestic.
yes.
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Brown. Yes. Dash.
Yes.
Heist.
Yes.
Lello.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Trifall.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Number 16, adopting employee domestic violence policy. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Roll call.
Brown.
Yes.
Dash.
Yes.
Heist.
Yes.
Lello.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Trifall.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
All right. Item 17, refund health insurance deductions. Kathy Corey, $988.43, and Bridget Hayes, $1,007.17.
This is what Jody spoke on at the last council meeting. Everybody's.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Brown.
Yes.
Dash.
Yes.
Heist.
Yes.
Lello.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Trifall.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
18, resolution salary amendment, special SEL 2 after academy, $16 an hour.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Brown.
Yes.
Dash.
Yes.
Heist.
Yes.
Lello.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Trifall.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
19, resolution payout accumulated time, Leonardo Carell, $1,546.62. That is the
The officer has resigned, it was just his,
Police officer
he was
has
on
resigned.
vacation and.
Make a motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Brown.
Yes.
Dash.
Yes.
Heist.
Yes.
Lello.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Tricol.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Item 20, authorize manpower study of the Acorn City Police Department by the NGDCA to include a possible shared service agreement. Craig, a motion?
Can we get some explanation on that?
Oh, this was, when we were at our, well, you could explain your safety
Yeah,
committee.
so at the safety committee meeting, we were discussing manpower in the police department with the hiring, the grant and everything. So it was suggested both by the mayor and by Lieutenant Hutton that we do a manpower study to see where we are, where we need to be, where we need to go, and staffing in relation to that. It was also, it's not so much to me personally, it's not so much a shared service agreement. I think it's more of a feasible study of combined services. It doesn't mean we're moving in that direction. It's just the NJDCA coming in here, doing their study and saying, hey, you might want to look at this, you might want to look at that, so on and so forth. So we can get our police department and our manpower to where it should be, so this town is safer.
Is this performed for free?
Yes.
Take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Brown.
Yes.
Dash.
Yes.
Heist.
Yes.
Lello.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Sefton. Tricol.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
And Meg, could you email me that resolution so I can forward to Richard Valley?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 21, authorizing purchase of authorizing purchases from state contracts.
Jody, explain.
This is, the state has a whole list of, you can go on their website and find a whole bunch of state contracts, so these are just the most common ones that we typically purchase from, so you don't have to go out to bid for, if you wanna purchase something from these vendors. Usually the specific type of item that's listed.
That's like doing the DocGo, stuff like that.
Yeah, like, yeah, that,
The word.
I think you want to read them all, or?
No, just a for
Okay.
instance, that's just,
Like Goodyear tires, Nova tires, or Johnson Towers on the parts for heavy duty vehicles.
all right, that's good, thank you, Judy.
Make a motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Brown.
Yes.
Dash.
Yes.
Heist.
Yes.
Lello.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Tricol.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Item 22, water and sewer credit, 328 10th Terrace, $80. Can I get a motion?
I'll make it.
Second.
Roll call.
Brown.
Yes.
Dash.
Yes.
Heist.
Yes.
Lello.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Tricol. Ross.
Yes.
They were billed for 3 weeks.
No, that's the next one.
That was one.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's this one. Oh, okay, yes, I'm sorry. No, they were billed, I was in it only had one connection.
They were billed for 3 connections going in.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry. Resolution rescind, resolution number 46-2020, authorized on January 23rd, 2020, duplicate payment of taxes had previously been adjusted, 210 Washington Ave.
At the last meeting, Laura and I was trying to help when I sent Meg a resolution, and then I think Laura sent one, and she realized after we did the original thing, when she went to reverse the payment, that it had gotten posted to the wrong account. And so then she had adjusted to the right, so we actually ended up doing 2 resolutions, one for the right account and one for the wrong account. So we're just reversing the one that was for the wrong account. It was actually a duplicate.
You need a roll call? Can I get a motion? Second. Roll call?
Brown.
Yes.
Dash.
Yes.
Heist.
Yes.
Lello.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Tricol.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Item 24, award contract for professional engineering consulting services associated with the water and sanitary utility systems, RFP assistance.
Jody will explain.
Brian thinking things we did, I didn't think that we ever had like a formal record of the additional that we had like a proposal for. I think we did the original thing, but then we had gotten, since obviously the WIPO wound up being way more complex than we originally thought. I had moved around money at the end of last year to allow for this, but I just wanted to have like a formal resolution to approve it, so we can pay the bills.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Brown.
Yes.
Dash.
Yes.
Heist.
Yes.
Lello.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Trifol.
Abstain,
Rob.
personal conflict.
And, who is it? I got, Ross.
Yes.
All right, item 25, that's fund building permit fees. Fund building permit fees to D.R. Horton. Permit number 18186 for $2,394.
There's actually three of them.
Yeah,
This-
number 18190, 2360, and number 18193, 2371.
This is the same with they changed the models of the home, so they had to refund all the others.
And
It's not,
resubmit.
they're, and resubmit, but you weren't allowed to,
They
You can't just transfer the money.
Right.
Is this the second time we've done this?
No, I checked to make sure
This
the
is probably the
refunds we
third.
did are different.
Yeah, no, they're
numbers.
different.
I checked.
No, they are all
Should I do
different.
the resolution for
So-
them?
there's probably 10 permits we're doing.
Okay.
I'm trying to combine them on resolutions, like, and do one, like, the last one was 3 on one resolution.
They just
So-
changed the style of the house, so you
Yes.
have to get the permit back and then repay the,
Yeah, you can't just
Correct.
transfer from one to the next, you gotta fully refund it and accept it now.
yeah.
So are we looking at any more moving forward? Do we know?
Donna says this should be the end.
Okay.
And we do get a 20% review fee, if that helps.
Well, let's,
Oh, baby.
I guess,
Second.
roll call?
Brown.
Yes.
Dash.
Yes.
Heist.
Yes.
Lello.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Trifol.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
All right. Item 26, ordinance number 2-2020, amend the general ordinance of the City of Egg Harbor, Part 2, General Legislation, Chapter 241, titled Taxation to add Article 3, Section 241-14, titled Totally Disabled Veterans and Surviving Spouse Tax Exemptions.
So we need a motion to open the public.
I make a motion we open.
Second. Public hearing open. Questions, anybody?
Do you want us to explain?
Yeah,
the
can
resolution?
you explain that?
We didn't formally have any kind of ordinance on the books to allow an exemption to disabled veterans pursuant to the VA. So pursuant to the VA regs, a disabled veteran or the spouse of a disabled veteran can now apply for a tax exemption. The VA has specific rules, has specific forms that the veteran needs to fill out and show that they are totally disabled. Once they show that and they present those documents to the city, and the city then pursuant to this ordinance has the power to grant them an exemption.
All right, any questions? Yes?
Is that, do they do it one time and they?
Can you stand up real quick so we know who you are?
My name's Kim Hess, I live on New Orleans Avenue. I just wanted to know, is that at one time they have to fill this out?
It is.
Thank you.
I have a question. If a spouse is married to a totally disabled veteran, I know they get the property, but if the spouse dies, that is disabled, does that stay with the
No.
spouse?
It's unique to the spouse. If the spouse dies, it does not stay with the property.
Even though that,
And then if the spouse moves, it does not stay with the property. So the spouse has to live in the property, has to be alive.
Any other questions? Motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Hearing closed.
Motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Roll call?
Brown.
Yes.
Dash.
Yes.
Heist.
Yes.
Lello.
Yes.
Mays.
Yes.
Ritchie.
Yes.
Sefton.
Yes.
Trifol.
Yes.
Ross.
Yes.
Advertised notice of adoption in the Hamilton Gazette on February 19, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright. Bill list?
No, the next ordinance, this is the one,
Recreation.
the recreation.
Oh, yes, yes. I'm sorry.
We just, the public hearing. Motion.
Is that the one? Oh, motion to open a public hearing. This is for the lake ordinance. motion?
So moved.
Second. All right, public hearing open. Brian, can you explain the map now?
Well, sure, I can give you, I've been working on the boundary portion of this ordinance. Large parcel in the middle of the city. There are no right-of-ways, the streets don't connect through there. But you do have some dirt roads, some traveled ways. So in order to try to delineate an area that you would enforce this ordinance in, you've identified some areas, an area that we're proposing to call Lake Circle Drive, and then another one would be City Lake Trail. And they would just provide some boundaries within which the ordinance would be enforced. We'll have a map to share with everybody, and we'll partner with the police department for where to post signage so that the ordinance is obvious and enforceable on their side.
Okay, so one of the things we're also gonna attempt to do here is once Ryan makes up the map, all right, we're going to, and I had chatted with the police department about this, and it's gonna be a little bit easier. We're gonna try to put these on in like, when we put it up, like in the areas out there, the red dot, you are here. And that area is gonna be outlined. So they understand that when they're within that area, they have to abide by the ordinance. Okay, so that ordinance will cover the back of the pavilion, it'll come around the north side parking lot, and then loop around the back of the lake, around the back parking lot, around the back of the parking lot, all the way around, and then go through where everybody comes in to go to the beach, and go out to that road, and then across the other side. What's the name of that road, Ryan?
A map, right?
Yeah, well, there'll be a larger format map, I didn't get a chance to get it. Yeah, so the names that we had floated was Lake Circle Drive and City Lake Trail. So the one on the sort of northwest side of the Route 50 in Philadelphia Avenue will be City Lake Trail. On the other side would be Lake Circle Drive.
The real roads are named, they are city roads, Mozart, McGelly.
They line up, but in that park section, the right-of-ways actually don't continue across, so it's, and again, these ones sort of meander in and out and cross a bunch of.
Tax map of those.
Oh, yeah, no, agreed.
No.
But in order to have some continuity and, like I said, it sort of crosses all over the place. To just identify one big loop that crosses over multiple right-of-ways, having a unique name would give you the ability to do that. And it's not a right-of-way, it's not on the tax map, it's just sort of a name that the city will designate for it, for enforcement purposes and location purposes, frankly.
I have a question. In that ordinance, because I started the ordinance, Angela basically finished the ordinance. The part about camping, no camping in parks, that's the entire city, from what I understand, not just within that area. That's what it was deemed. No Lincoln Park.
No city right away for that
No.
matter.
Anywhere in the city, there's no camping unless they have a permit. So somebody can't go out and put their tent up next to the pavilion or over by the Beaver Dam, or that was part of the ordinance.
That's what it says in the ordinance now.
Okay, so that still will stay in effect and it won't be constricted by the boundaries of this map?
No.
Okay.
The map is in addition.
Yeah, the map is just something that the police department and people can use to try to identify the boundaries and have a better understanding of where things are.
That's basically what that was. And as far as the beach and all that stuff, with the having your pet, what do you call them?
Service animals.
Service animals, okay? So with the service animals, basically, no one has a right according to the ADA to ask a person what their disability is, okay? But the people there do have a right to ask what the dog's job is that correct, Steve?
As I understand it, you can ask if it's a service animal and if it performs a function for a disability.
Right.
And
That's how
that's
you
it.
got it, right? Two-step.
Yeah, that was just a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can explain what you know about. Go ahead, Scott.
So basically, the whole idea was to limit pets on the beach and everything else like that. There was a question brought up about the Americans with Disabilities Act and service animals. The ADA specifically states that a service animal is a dog or a horse, little miniature horse. And that, I'll explain that in a second. The miniature horse is for stability with people with disabilities that need help standing or, maintaining balance because they have a bigger bone structure. But but what they were saying is there's no training, no identification, no anything. But the city can ask on a volunteer basis, what, if,
Sorry.
Sorry, excuse me.
the city can ask on a volunteer basis, not demanding any information from anybody that's covered under the ADA. If they so choose, they can inform our lifeguards, this dog performs for epilepsy or, seizure, something like that, at the person that has the ADA discretion. All we're allowed to do, like Councilman said, was what, is it a service animal? And what function does it perform, basically? Emotional support dogs, okay, are not covered under ADA guidelines. A psychiatric service working dog by a psychiatrist is considered a working dog. Emotional support, okay, is not a working dog. One of the big things that the ADA has a problem with is you pay $75 online, and you get a little certificate that says it's an emotional support dog. The Americans with Disabilities does not recognize emotional support dogs, okay? Psychiatric working dogs or service dogs are it. Now, what was I going to say? I was not sure. Now, with the animals, they have to be on a leash, with the exception of certain service animals, service dogs, that perform a certain function, like if somebody has a seizure, they go and get help and come back. Now, one thing, the caveat for the city, because of the way it is with the ADA, if somebody says it's a service dog, okay, for the city has a recourse on this. If the animal is not under control, under the ADA guidelines, the city can ask for that person and the animal to be removed after an attempt to make it, heal or whatever. That is one thing. So,
Thank you.
sorry, there was a lot of phone calls, a lot of research and everything.
If I could just add, we had this discussion at the last council meeting, and it was very important that we didn't restrict people with disabilities to enter with a service animal. So that's why we wanted to make sure that it was clarified. So,
Now, one of the things that we had talked about is the people that have these disabilities and have the service dogs and stuff like that, there will be a paper that they can voluntarily fill out, okay? Because someone with epilepsy, if that lifeguard is not aware of it and that dog's running up and jumping on his legs and he doesn't know why, it's better that they fill it out so that at least the lifeguards and other people that work there are kind of know why this dog is coming up, jumping on your lap, trying to get your attention for a reason. Okay, so, but it's voluntary. You don't have to do it, but we're gonna put it out there as a voluntary thing, just makes you more aware.
The other thing is, did you ever reach out to our risk management about doing a ADA class?
Yes, they said they would.
Okay. So that's the other thing we're gonna do for all city employees, both here in City Hall and at the lake during the season. We're gonna set up a seminar, a training class, so they're aware of ADA, animals, service animals, and how to deal with them.
Other things besides that.
Yeah.
All right?
And something, this is only part of that ordinance, the rest are basic rules, so that was just the amended part for the ADA. When people come, do we have a form that has the specific ordinance that the people that come to put a tent or camp there, that they have to read before they can rent and have to sign off that they agree to the rules?
Well, that's the campground.
That's what I'm saying, in the campground.
There are.
Doesn't this have,
All the rules
consider
are
the
posted,
campground as well?
All the ordinance are posted, like the dog ordinance, the smoking ordinance, everything's, the fee ordinance, everything out at the lake is posted. At the campground, there's nothing posted.
Because,
That's up to the manager of the campground. He has his forms that he has filled out, the information he takes from his campers.
that
We
would
can
give,
provide this ordinance
Yeah.
to
Yeah, that's a
him.
good idea.
that would give us a little leg to stand on if they acknowledge that they've read the rules and agree to abide by the rules, and then would make it that they violated their agreement when you want to remove them.
On his lease that he gives them when they sign in, he does have some
Yes.
sort of statement on there that says, this is what you have to do, and if you don't do it, then, these are our rules. I'm not quite sure is as extensive as having the campground ordinance on there.
Yeah, it might be a good idea to have a campground ordinance, because it has the newly enacted prohibited activities.
Right.
So once they look at the prohibited activities, they're on notice of what they can and can't do.
I think we should have a part, or recommend to him to have a part that says that they have read and understand the rules and have and sign it.
We're gonna
I
meet
think they
with,
have that, didn't he give?
yeah, he gave us a copy. Parks and Playgrounds are gonna meet with him, at the end of April. We have a Parks and Playground meeting. I'm gonna invite him, and I'm also gonna invite, Lieutenant Hutton, so he can come in and explain to him how, if he wants the police in there, what he has to do in order to have the police do what he wants them to do. There's certain guidelines that he has to follow in order for them to follow. So that will be taken care of at the Parks and Playgrounds meeting in April.
And that ordinance, can you talk about that, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to come and talk about it. You tell me when it is, I'll be there.
Absolutely. So we're good to go with
Yep,
everything?
we're good.
Pretty satisfied? All right. Can I get a motion?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
Second?
No second.
Let me back this up. Is there any questions about this ordinance? I apologize for that. Is there any questions about this ordinance that we're putting out for this late, that people don't understand? Yes.
Kids are still good to put a tent in the backyard, right?
As long as on
Sure
your
you are.
property, yeah.
Sure you are.
Make sure.
You're paying taxes, you're good, you pay.
Are you,
Kids can't come to my house.
when you talk about no camping in the city, do you define camping? Is camping staying overnight? Is camping if I'm fishing and I throw up a tent to keep my little kid out of the sun? Is that camping? What's camping?
Camping's overnight.
Overnight, I
Right,
would say,
if you
right?
have a little, right, if you have a camp tent for your child to protect them from the sun, that's not camping.
I would agree.
Camping's overnight.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Any other questions?
Nothing.
Can I get a motion to?
So moved.
Motion, hearing closed. Motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call?
Brown?
Yes.
Dash?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
Mello?
Yes.
Mays? Ritchie?
Yes.
Sefton?
Yes.
Triton?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Advertised notice of adoption in Hampton Gazette on February 19, 2020. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. All.
That's it.
Good? Yes.
I did want to recognize that, last council meeting, we appointed George Frick as the realtor.
Yes.
He's here, maybe
Oh,
you want to introduce
Okay,
him?
yes. Mr. Frank, can you come up? I'm gonna bring you up here first.
We did have some questions.
Everybody, this is George Frick, probably most of you know him. He's gonna be selling some of our properties.
Real estate.
Real estate. He's gonna be taking care of some, of them, get rid of some of our properties if they don't auction off. You could explain all that if you.
Well, actually, we're in the process of trying to figure out how that whole process is gonna work.
Okay.
And I guess, the city solicitor will have to talk about that a little bit later. But the purpose was to take a lot of properties that, nobody's paying taxes on, and we're trying to auction them up for the highest and best price. Hopefully we get somebody to purchase them, and get some taxes. Sometimes when you go to the auctions, they become such low prices, and I've seen people flip them in like 4 or 5 months for double the money. So we want to get the highest and best price. And we just want to make sure it's done fairly and legally, I guess.
Yes.
And I guess we'll have to talk more about the details.
Sure, you can call me anytime. So basically, I think your function will be that if a property doesn't sell at public auction, then the city will give it to you to sell. And we'll put at public auction, we'll put a base on it so that it doesn't sell for a ridiculously low number.
Yeah.
And so we'll need you to appraise the property to be able to do that.
Okay, that's great. I'm in the process, like I said, I was meeting with Jerry Gleason today about water and sewer locations, the tax assessor, talked to the finance, so hopefully in the next week or so I can come up with some ideas. I think there's 11 lots out there right now, or properties as well, and come up with a price, a realistic price to start.
Angela, I have a question, because we had this question. You said if it doesn't sell at public auction, but who sets that price?
We do.
the city, like, but who gives them that fair market value, or?
The appraisal price, yeah.
Oh, I thought you said he doesn't get involved till after it doesn't
No,
sell.
I said we can appraise the property so that we can set a bid price for the property.
And then if it doesn't sell, then he tries to
Correct.
sell it.
Then he should
A
sell
bit of
it.
reserve bid, I guess, is
Okay.
the minimum.
Yeah.
Yes. But also, I mean, we have adjoining property owners, the property could be sold to adjoining property owner, it could be sold to another government body as well.
But George would determine what we should be, like, make the recommendation
Yeah,
to
the
council.
reserve price. Right, kind of give us the
It
reserve
has to be
price.
fair market
Well,
value.
These were all
So then,
discussions.
would that be built in, like, if it's sold at that price, would he be able, like, how does that work for, as far as?
Sale, we have to determine how we're essentially going to pay him, correct?
That's, yeah, that's.
So if it sells at that price, of course, we have to pay him in some manner. If it doesn't sell, then.
Start.
I thought that was in the RFP for some reason. Did we not put that?
That was for him selling it, not doing the appraisal part.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
He wants, if it doesn't, if it goes to the auction and he's not really, you know what I mean? It's not
Then there
going
should be a set
Right.
price to pay him
It should be a
for
set
his,
price.
for his appraisal work.
Yeah, I don't think that was
So
figured
what's
out
our
yet.
next step? He should give us a fee schedule or something?
So the appraisals would be one price for every appraisal, or they, is that how that works?
Well,
So
I
each
think the RFP was just saying you wanted me to list and sell the properties is what it said. And it said, and everything about auctions, I think we just found that out recently. So I think we have to probably finalize those correct details, right?
Yes, we'll have to make some adjustments that we could figure out because of the appraisals. to
Exactly.
Square up with you guys.
Yeah.
We have to have some mechanism so you can reject the bid. That's why we
Well,
need
doesn't the
appraisal.
reserve work though? If we don't make the reserve?
Yeah, we'll suggest a reserve a minimum bid, and of course,
I
I
didn't
guess,
know what that is.
yeah. I guess the question we were saying is, you know, how much work do I do if everything's sold to auction, how do I get paid? So I'm doing all work prior to the auction,
Okay.
and if we sell everything, then what's the purpose, and how do I?
Right, and, okay, we'll have to.
We'll have to finalize
Yeah,
those
we'll get that
details.
finalized.
Should we have him submit something of what you would like?
Well, I think we already did when I submitted my original
Okay.
application.
You want to
Fees
keep that
were
the
on
same
there.
way, the same number?
Well,
For the appraisal?
you know, there's different ways it can be done, because sometimes, properties are listed online with realtors, and it says you can't submit the bid, you have to go to the auction and submit the bid. And they have what they call buyer's reserve, so the buyer actually is paying a fee to a realtor. So that could possibly be a way to structure it now.
Okay. What?
We were gonna look and see what other towns did as well, right? Did you ever have a chance?
I spoke to a couple of municipalities, but I think they just basically are doing.
We're leading the way.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
All right.
St. Harbor City, leading the way.
That seems right way.
As always.
Everybody-
I do like what he just said, though, is if it sells at auction, the person that buys it at auction pays the appraisal fee
Yeah.
for the home. That way it takes that off of our backs and puts it on
Yeah.
the,
But if something doesn't sell and he did all the work, he still should.
well, then it comes back and then he
And then
sells
he
it, and then
sells it.
he's going to make his commission off the sale of the home with his appraisal fee. So it's a win-win either way.
Well, I think the whole purpose was that nobody was coming out to the auctions, and people were coming out and were bidding so low and were just selling them at a discounted price. And that's upsetting, because then I just see it flipped a few months later at a higher price. That's
And
what I'm
a
trying to
lot of
avoid.
these properties, the ones that you're probably looking at now, are foreclosed, we own them, the city owns them.
Right, there's 11 of them I think I'm doing research on right now.
Yeah.
So it's a good start. Yeah.
All right, thanks, George.
Thank you. Thank you for this.
Excuse me, what's your rate again for that? Are you giving us a discount? I'm serious. You're
I'm going
giving-
to submit the application into the board, and I think it's at the last meeting of all the fees involved when you sell.
I mean, you get 3%, 6%, what are you getting?
Normally, it's 6%.
So you're getting a bulk rate from us, so you should discount.
Well, I guess we have to figure out actually if we're even permitted to do it, because I think if we're doing the auction first, that's if we put on the market, represent it, advertise the market, we're spending a lot of money. But we may not even get to that point, because if we're selling at auction, then I'm just gonna probably charge a small fee for an appraisal.
Okay, thank you, George.
Okay.
All right, item 28, bill list. Any motion? Any questions on the bill list? Can I get a motion? Okay, Bill? Second. Roll call?
Brown?
Yes.
Dash?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
Lello?
Yes.
Mays?
Yes.
Ritchie?
Yes.
Sefton?
Yes.
Tricol?
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Come on up, sir.
My name is Dick Colby, Liverpool Avenue, and I've been asked by Nanette Galloway to report on our reorganization meeting of a Sustainable Egg Harbor City, an organization that meets in this room on fourth Tuesdays at 6 p.m. and for whom our liaison to this council, I think, is Mr. Lello, but I'm not sure if that continues.
Well, I'll make it that way.
Okay, since he was not at our
The fourth
reorganization
Tuesday?
meeting, I will speak.
Sorry, I didn't.
I will say what he should be saying, which is that we are applying for the usual $2,000 of maintenance money, which will allow us to, one, print a brochure on hiking trails in Egg Harbor City, written by me. The Mullica River Hub Cleanup Volunteer Recognition Program, whatever that is. The Improve Recycling by Parents and Children at Key Rec program, and a spring environmental series that will take place somewhere in Egg Harbor City, including a video produced by Steve Fiedler of 12 invasive species of plants that should be protected against in southern New Jersey. Another session on a visit to what's called Enlightened Farm in Galloway Township by means of some transportation. A third is a program of the Master Gardener program that's operated out of Rutgers, and it has a number of representatives living locally. And fourthly, a census kiosk day, whatever that is. Other projects that we are considering working on, including the replacement of street trees on those blocks that have lost their street trees in Egg Harbor City, a promotion of community solar as an opportunity for many people who can't put solar panels on their roofs be able to organize collectively to have them, and for which the ACOA has been designated by the county government as the agency to produce that kind of amenity in Atlantic County. And of course, we know that Rick Dovey is a local. Rebuilding of the Antwerp railbed as a recreational pathway, and somehow getting the ATVs and other motorized vehicles off of that. A change in the fixtures for street lighting in Egg Harbor City to reduce light pollution to the sky, as well as change to a more cheaper form of bulb called LED. We are interested in making Clark's Landing part of a county park, historic park system, since that is the oldest established community in Atlantic County, dating from the early 1800s. At one time it had 400 people living there, and there's still a graveyard there and evidence of former buildings. And finally, a program by which members of organizations such as ours are invited to join the ACOA's recycling truck on its route through Egg Harbor City to spot contents of blue bins that shouldn't be in them and leave messages to that extent to advise people that they shouldn't be trying to recycle certain items, because those bins would not be emptied by the ACOA on the occasions of that kind of noticing. So that's what we're up to. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have some good news on the lighting. The electric company has taken a program to convert all the street lighting to a more amberish color LED that will supposedly take that glare out. It's a program that they initiated. I don't know when it's, how it's, but it's throughout the region for Atlantic Electric.
Anybody else? Come on up. State your name, where you live.
Hello everyone, my name is Sandy Hickerson. I actually live in Atchison here in Atlantic County. I am here representing the Atlantic County Second Amendment Sanctuary. If you are unaware, the law-abiding citizens of Atlantic County and the state of New Jersey, we have come up with a resolution that we are asking all townships such as Egg Harbor City and all the townships in Atlantic County, as well as the Atlantic County, to adopt this resolution, meaning that you will become the Second Amendment friendly. The law-abiding citizens, we feel that our gun rights have been slowly chipped away at over the years, for longer than I've been alive, and we have rallied together and formed this resolution to say that we're tired of our gun rights being violated. So we're asking that you would please look at this resolution, considering adopting it. There are many gun laws that are, such as the red flag law, it's unconstitutional. If you're unfamiliar with the red flag law, there's no due process. You are guilty until proven innocent, and it's just not right. We all know that, a gun is just a tool. Doesn't matter if it's a gun, if it's a knife, if it's a baseball bat, your bare hands, or a pillow. It's not about the tool, but it's about the person behind the tool. So every time they make these, quote, common sense gun laws, they only hurt us, the law-abiding citizen. They need to go after the person, not the item, thus hurting us. So we have this proposed resolution. I have a copy of it here tonight. This is a total grassroots effort. We are volunteers all across the state. We've been in existence for about 6 weeks now. We have 24 townships represented across the state that has adopted this resolution, as well as 3 counties, Cape May County, Salem County, and Warren County. So I just can't stress enough the importance that the law-abiding gun owners, that we hope that you consider adopting this resolution and making Egg Harbor City a Second Amendment sanctuary.
We will take that under advisement, get a look at this thing, and.
Send it electronically, or if you have.
I have a copy of it here,
Okay, I'll
along
send it
with
to everybody.
my contact information, and I apologize, I can also send you a copy of the resolutions that Egg Harbor Township, First Township, and Atlantic County, they adopted, so I can send you that resolution,
Okay.
along with the resolution that Cape May County has adopted.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming up.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Okay, thank you.
Evening, everyone. Free Kramer, Chicago Avenue. Another 3 weeks has gone by now, and as far as the public's concerned, Councilman Mays, his statement has gone unanswered, other than by my statement last council meeting. So, Mr. Mays, after 3 weeks, have you considered accepting my request to retract your statement, your claim of white nationalism among council?
I'm not doing anything, okay?
Are you willing to apologize to me?
Okay.
And so are you willing to at least stand by your statement that an association with me is grounds for somebody else being considered a white nationalist?
I have no further statements to make to you, okay?
Does anybody have anything to say about the matter, or is it just going to be continue to be ignored?
I will say that I don't believe, my own personal opinion, that I don't believe that anybody up here is a white supremacist. I believe that everybody up here is here for the good of the city. I trust everybody that is up here is gonna do their job to benefit this city and not to do anything else but benefit this city.
I have to say that I did go to Mr. Mays personally, because I was very insulted and very offended by his comment. I have worked for 32 years in a special education district where we service children of all ethnicities. Those children sit on my lap, I wipe their tears, I change their diapers. I don't see the color of a person. I see the soul of a person. And I spoke to Mr. Mays, and he told me to go back and watch the tape. And I did 3 times. And his words were, a government run by white nationalists, a council run by white nationalists. I was very offended. And I, unfortunately, Mr. Mays, if you can't retract your statement, realize you made a mistake, you spoke out of anger, you spoke in the moment, then I've lost all respect for you.
That's great. Do what you wanna do. They can move there.
I'm just making it public.
I'm making my statement too. I'm not making any more statements on that.
Okay, so just to be clear, so a council member can make such a statement in the council meeting, and then in an interview with the press, and then in a press release, make a reference basing that claim because of somebody's association with, well, with me. And this is how we're dealing with it. This is, you're not apologizing, not retracting it, not standing by it, nothing, you got nothing to say. And Donna is the only one who has anything to say about it.
Let me say this. The Atlantic County Republican Party denounced what you stated. Let me present. The Atlantic County Democratic Party denounced it. So speak for itself. They denounced it.
Right, they denounced me as a candidate.
No, they denounced the statements. You go to the press and read it. Read what happened before the election. Okay?
You do know who I am, right?
No, I'm speaking of what the press stated. The Atlantic County Republican Party.
Do you know who I am? All right, but do you know who I am?
I'm finished with that. I made my statement.
Just to refresh memories, there was a vicious attack on Reed Kramer done anonymously on Facebook, and we do happen to have a trace on that. However, the statements were pulled from his Facebook page that were made 10 years ago. I honestly...
7 years ago.
7 years ago. I honestly don't even recall what the statements were. I don't know if they... I mean, I know they were definitely in the newspaper. I do remember that. But that's what this issue is about. And association, apparently, what Reed's getting at is that he has been pretty much... anyone who associates with him is now considered a racist. And I think that's what this is all about.
Look, here's what it comes down to. People make mistakes in their life, okay? They might not always say the right thing at the right time, okay? But I think everybody deserves a chance to show that they're a better person than that. And for everybody, and I think everybody out there should give these people a chance. Doesn't matter who it is, whether it's Reed, whether it's Mr. Mays, whether it's anybody, okay? People make mistakes. It happens. It's out of anger. Maybe they got the short end of the stick. Maybe they had a bad day at work, okay? Statements come out. If people take everything that's said at the moment, or what's written about, or what they wrote years ago, and take it as this is them now, then everybody needs to look inside themselves and think about back in the days when you were younger and made mistakes, and how now you've changed. You didn't walk up to every person that you've done bad to and said you're sorry, but you've done it in your own way. You've changed the way you look at things. You've changed the way you do things. And I think everybody deserves that chance. Everybody out there, including Reed,
Well, can I just
deserves
note a
that
difference
chance.
here? He said to the press that he did make certain statements that weren't okay. We are not acknowledging that we have said something in anger or for whatever reason, because you have no idea who this man is or who his friends are, okay? And I'm so furious.
If I could say something?
Sure.
I wasn't gonna address this initially, but since this occurred on the night of my swearing in, and Scott and Matthias swearing in, I think we probably should say something. We were all shocked by the statements that we heard by Mr. Mays. I've known Cliff for a long time. I've sat with him many times in meetings. I've always considered him a very likable person. I was shocked when I heard those statements. And quite frankly, that night of my swearing in, most of the minorities in the audience that night were my family members. And they were shocked and upset about it. Of course, when I heard it, I thought naturally, since Scott and I were the first ones, we were being sworn in along with Matea, I thought he was referring to myself. My family thought he was referring to myself. I later found out it had really nothing to do with Scott or myself or Matea, but there's been no clarification, so it's been kind of hanging out there. I think, Cliff, I'll say this right to you, I think you owe everyone an apology, and I think you should retract your statement. I run a very large nonprofit organization. I have a lot of minorities in my family. I have a lot of minorities that are friends of mine, and that whole statement overshadowed the night that was supposed to be a wonderful evening for my family. So that's how I feel about it. I think if you're not prepared to do that, then you really should think about what you're doing to the city.
Thank you, Steve.
If I can comment, I was flabbergasted. It's followed me to work. I try, same thing with Donna. Comments are made, some in jest, and I thought that eventually that you would apologize to the governing body, and it affected us, and nothing has come about. So,
Thanks. And Steve, real quick, just while it's on my mind, because I'll lose it. Steve made a good point. The comment that was made that night, the statement that was made at the council meeting was a generalized statement. The basis for that statement in the newspaper article was not so generalized. It was directed at me. Go ahead.
I just want to say, as the only other minority up here, I felt that the statement included me as well, which I don't do the race card. I've dealt with racism. I know racism when I feel it. And if there's racism, I'm going to call it out. And because of the statement he made, he lost my support because I was not going to do that. I have biracial children. I have a boyfriend of 15 years that's white. I'm not going to pull the race card, and I'm not going to stand beside somebody that does because I don't agree with it. I feel like that was a low blow, and you shouldn't have to keep going through this.
Thank
And I spoke to Cliff myself after that meeting, personally, about my disapproval with that, and didn't really get a clarified answer, but I thought this would be straightened out, and then when the last meeting you came in and there was talk of litigation, I figured, okay, I'm just gonna let this thing go, from my point of view, because I don't wanna be in the middle of any of that situation. I don't wanna be in the middle of it at all. I expressed.
Nor do I.
And I expressed to Cliff my dissatisfaction, because I didn't know where it was coming from. But I was told that I do know where it's coming from, but I was assured it wasn't me. Because I took it that it was all of us up here. So, I'm not really sure who it was directed to, and I really thought that by now, Cliff would have apologized by now. I thought that was probably the man up thing to do, but he's made it clear that he's not. So, the ball, the tennis ball is back in the court.
I'm not going to, so that's, that does nobody any good. And I appreciate everybody saying what they had to say tonight. I wish that you had said it on your own rather than me having to do a little bit of prompting and prodding. But I do appreciate, I do appreciate what everybody has said, and because I've spoken with many of you on an individual basis, on a personal basis, and I consider most of you my friends, and the ones that I don't consider my friends, it's because we don't know each other well enough yet. But because of that, I'm not going to seek any further action, but I will stand by the one thing that I said I would do, everything within my power to make sure that Mr. Mays no longer sits on this council or holds any elected position ever in the future. And you can take that however you want, Mr. Mays, but I can assure you that this will be your last year as an elected person.
Add that excluding Scott, Steve, and Mattia, the past few elections have been disgusting as far as I'm concerned. There were lies that were told, there were things dug up about people. I've never seen anything like this in Egg Harbor City, except for maybe in 2006 election, when there was a publication from the other party about that wasn't even near the level that this has gone to. And the result was a sweep in the election. And I just think it's very sad that people, good people, that want to run for city council have got to put up with that and see their name slandered on Facebook. Whatever you said, you stuck by what you said. And I don't recall that, like I said, I'm sorry, I don't recall what it was, because I don't like to read things like that, especially on Facebook, because you don't know if it's true. And like I said, it was investigated. And the email that it came from, we're sort of aware of where it came from.
Where'd it come from?
I can't.
You said you're
know.
sort of aware.
I was told that there was a trace on it, okay, but I was not told the trace,
Okay.
okay?
So you don't know
whatever-
if there's a trace?
No.
You're just told there
And
was?
let's just say if we wanted to identify it, if you want to pursue it, you can. I don't know if you want to pursue it or not, but you
No, the
could.
whole thing's drawing quite a bit of attention. I think a lot of people would like to know where it
That's
came from.
I'm only relaying information that I was told, that it could be traced
Okay.
from an email.
Okay, well, if you don't know who, or listen, we can accuse anybody of
I'm not
anything.
accusing anybody, I'm just telling you the facts.
You just
Obviously,
laid
I
it
was
out to
accused
us.
of being a racist.
Excuse me?
Well,
I said, obviously, we can accuse anybody of anything because I was accused of being a racist. And that accusation is grounds for calling people who associate with me racist. So apparently we can say whatever we
I
want.
just think it's sad to
Say whatever you want, First Amendment rights, right?
And I'll,
Thank you.
Can you yell fire in the theater?
Sure, get you arrested, but sure.
Well,
I just think
Still say it.
it's very sad the way politics has become in Egg Harbor City. And it's a disgrace. It really deters a lot of good people from running for city.
Listen, one thing I know, when you post stuff on Facebook, Instagram, and any of that stuff, there's no motion behind it. All it is words. And anybody is gonna take those words any way they want. So when you post it, just be prepared. When you write it, check it before you push that button post. You better read it again.
if I were to pick and choose specific verses out of the Bible without any context
Exactly.
surrounding it, those statements in and of themselves could be used in any way I want.
Exactly.
However, putting everything else in the book, it winds up being the moral basis by which more people live their lives
Absolutely.
than any other book.
You're right.
So maybe we read the whole book.
Well, you're right, and that's why I said, people put these little blurbs out there, and all it takes is someone to read it the wrong way, and now you're a bad person.
Yeah, and I have plenty of Facebook comments snapshot on my phone to attest to that very fact.
Yep.
Thank you all.
Anybody else?